Welcome to another episode of Prophetic Perspective, recorded today in the promised land of Kentucky. I'm here with Dr. Kurt Jefferson. Kurt, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Well, we are here because I wanted to discuss your new book, The Wars of Israel. And Kurt, this was a tremendous insight in some of the wars that Israel has fought literally since its founding in 1948. And you stepped through them very detailed, obviously from an academic perspective, from the most recent war, the war against Hamas, all the way back to the War of Independence. What was your motivation behind writing this book?
Yeah, in general, Tim, I was hoping to essentially lay out both how Israel fights its wars, but also to explain that the context in which October 7, 2023 played out was not only important for Israel to defend itself, but also important for the nations of the world, especially the United States, to recognize that here was a modern democratic state that had been attacked, and it needed to be defended by all of the nations of the world in terms of the horrible situation that was inflicted upon it by Hamas.
Well, you obviously, having served as a college professor, a dean, and having your graduate degree in political science, you know that even by just war theory, Israel is completely justified in defending itself, especially after being attacked so horrifically by Hamas. But really, all of its wars have been defensive wars, recognizing that if Israel ever loses, it will cease to exist, whereas its enemy is just bent on murder and destruction, I think satanically inspired in that regard.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you're exactly right that Israel never has it easy in any wars that it fights. It has to fight with one arm tied behind its back. And normally, after 10 or 15 days, the nations of the world, the P5 states of the United Nations, which includes the United States, comes in and says, you must stop, and you have to stop now.
You know, very tragically, even you think the Six-Day War, the world never says stop while Israel is perceived to be losing, but as soon as Israel is perceived to be winning or gaining the upper hand, the United Nations steps in immediately and says, you need to stop. We demand a ceasefire. Even after the attack from Hamas, the United Nations was silent by and large, but as soon as Israel began to try to eradicate Hamas, the United Nations has been completely beside itself. You know, you stepped through 18 different wars, Kurt, in your book. You talk about the politics behind the wars, the background, the economics, which I found very fascinating, and the security needs and implications for both Israel and its enemies. But there's an element to where I've come to perceive that perhaps these wars as we see them are really more like battles in an ongoing war that has been underway since 1948, perhaps even what we will, in hindsight, recognize was the war of Psalm 83.
Yeah, Tim, I think that's a crucial insight in that when you think about the length of the wars, and in the average Israeli war, even though it's about 2 years, you have longer wars because of Israel stopping in the Lebanon war to take over southern Israel and create a buffer zone, which is really, peacekeeping. And so in this case, most of their wars are a week to 10 days. They're not very long. So I think your point about looking at this holistically as a series of battles in a broader set of what God is doing here and what He's allowing is 100% right. And of course, I did talk about the inner and outer ring attacking Israel and what they're trying to do. And certainly Psalm 83 does tie into the inner ring of nations, the Syrias, the Jordans, the Lebanons, the Egypts sitting around the ring of Israel and attacking it from 1948 to the present.
Right. I think one of the things that's been most disturbing to a Christian who has a great love for Israel, the people, the land, the nation, is to watch the rise of anti-Semitism, even the propaganda. And so you think when it comes to the battle for hearts and minds, Hamas and the enemies of Israel seem to be having greater success, at least on the average American campus, than Israel itself. Why is that? What is the reason why so many Americans and Westerners are deceived?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I'm not sure I have the main answer for it, but I do think that there's definitely satanic forces involved, no question. I also think when you think about what actually happened, how quickly people forget. In this age of using a cell phone and the wiring of one's mind vis-a-vis the cell phone, people are forgetting. Now we're being told that Israel has created genocide because of what happened on October 7th. And one of the reasons, Tim, honestly, I wrote the book was to remind people that 1,200 innocent Jews died on that day, were attacked in their beds and slaughtered, but also 251 people were kidnapped and taken by not only 3,200 Hamas raiders, but also by civilians from Gaza that came across into Israel and assisted the Hamas terrorists and carried them back. So we do want to remember and recall that this war was not a war of Israel's choosing. They were attacked mercilessly, and they're just responding to them having been imperiled by this process.
You know, what's most galling even to think about is they have come to recognize that many of the people in those kibbutzim that were near to the Gaza border, they were peace advocates. They wanted to have a relationship with the Palestinians of Gaza.
Indeed.
Many of them welcomed Palestinian workers into their homes, and they found out after the fact that even the Palestinians who came across to work and to make a living in Israel were actually scouting for Hamas, so that when they did attack, they knew exactly where to go. They knew how to get into various homes and even into some of the shelters. It's galling to this day. Well, Kurt, I think you're exactly right. There is a satanic element to all of this because Satan wants to thwart God's will. He wants to destroy the people that God loves. And so that which God loves, Satan hates, and he is a perpetrator and propagator of hate.
Indeed, absolutely.
Well, Kurt, how can our viewers, for Prophetic Perspective, get a copy of The Wars of Israel?
It's pretty easy, Tim, to pick that up on Amazon.com or at my publisher, which is ggvpublishing.com out of Chicago. So they can either go to Amazon or to GGV Publishing.
All right, we'll make sure that's at the bottom so you can see. But Kurt, I look forward to continuing to collaborate in the future. Maybe we can get an article or a project together for the Lamplighter or otherwise, and perhaps even travel to Israel, even next year in Jerusalem, brother.
That'd be fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Godspeed.